Welcome back to Your Business podcast. And I'm excited today to be connecting and chatting with Mary Houle, who has the owner of Belong Consulting, and she helps to assist creative mind business founders in effectively approaching and comprehending their operations and finances. Her goal is to enable them to be informed and make data driven decisions. She focuses on operational understanding and analytical insights. You're speaking my language here, so I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Amy. I'm so excited to chat with you and really just dive into that side of the business.
Absolutely. So I know we were kind of speaking offline. We were talking about the power of connecting, and we had met through Threads, which I feel like so
Yes,
many other like small business solo entrepreneurs are like loving that platform because it's just such a genuine way to like have natural conversations. So, yeah.
it's way more casual and I feel like more approachable. And I think people respond more on that as well.
Yes.
And it's easier to take a risk just to message someone. And so that's what I did with you. I was like,
Yes.
I'm just going to reach out to Amy.
Absolutely. And I think too, like people are more open to like sharing things, right? And you don't have to worry about like
Yeah,
in the DMs and all the other things that come along with all the other platforms too. So, so yeah, excited to have you here today. So why don't you kind of share with our listeners? I know I talked a little bit, about what you do, but kind of like, how did you even get started in business?
sure. So I was in the corporate world. It's been a little over 7 years now, and my background was in pricing and operations and financial analysis. And I really started to discover like what I liked and I didn't like in those roles. And after I received my MBA from Texas Tech, I really started to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And a big part of what I really like about business is building relationships and connecting with others. And my mom always said that my strong suit was bringing people together. And so I just kept thinking, like, okay, how can I do that? How can I do that? And so at my old position, I asked my VP, I was like, okay, like, I really like to do this. Is there a role where I can build relationships and still be like project oriented in business? And he laughed at me
Oh
and
no.
and he asked, he was like, no, well, what's the real reason why you want to like keep working here? And I was like, to build relationships.
Yeah.
And so that like made me upset for a little bit, but then it really just fueled kind of my dedication to myself and my talents. And so November of 2024, I just had this inkling and an idea. I was like, okay, like what if I start my own company? I'll just see how it goes. If it totally fails, I'll have my corporate job on the side.
Yeah.
And the day after I fully like formed my LLC, I got a word of mouth client, and then I got another one the next week, and I was like, okay, like I really like to do this. Like this is
Mhm.
awesome. So I've been doing it ever since November 2024, and still in like that building phase
Yeah.
of reaching out to potential leads or just seeing what industries I can learn more about. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately the goal is I want to provide a one-stop shop for people where they can feel comfortable talking about their numbers. They can learn more about their industry. I can gain knowledge from them
Yeah.
because they have a scope that's totally different than mine. And it's been really fun. I've met amazing people so far.
That's amazing. And so kind of two things I've noticed here from what you're sharing, like one, the fact that like you approach, your VP saying like, I want to do this. They laughed at you. You're like, okay, so this isn't how I want to lead in my life. And this isn't how like there's more to business than just like the transaction piece. And like
Right.
you've really touched into that on like the relationship piece and the fact that like there's such a shift that's happening with now other
Hmm.
yourself and like so many other entrepreneurs are like, I want to build relationships because I have so much value to give in the relationship too. So I think that's amazing that you're like, I'm just going to take this leap of faith and then the fact that you had these referrals. So again, I think that's a testament to like the relationship that you've built with people and people already like trust you and they're like you just started but like that doesn't matter. Like that's amazing that they're like I want your help and support.
Thank you. I think that's the foundation of really anything that you do of any type of like business venture, whether it's more analytics, like consulting on our side,
Yeah.
or even if you're doing a retail product-based product.
Yeah.
You can't go anywhere unless you have the people around you to push your idea forward or even bounce ideas off of. And so I
Yeah.
think it's so backwards how relationships or people are put like on the back burner
Yeah.
when if that's your skill, then go with it, and then all the rest will like follow suit.
Absolutely. And it's really being a place of service. Like, how can I
Mhm.
support you? How can I help you? And then, like you said, you're learning along the way for that and like developing your skills that much further too by being of service to somebody and really listening to what the needs are of the client too.
Absolutely. And I think that's hard to be vulnerable that you are learning with your
Yeah.
client because on Instagram or LinkedIn, you want to present yourself on like the best foot forward and like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm an expert, I'm a thought leader. But I've noticed like just talking to people and even with my clients, if I don't know something, I'll just say, hey, I'm going to go research this and I don't have the answer for you right now. And it's hard to be vulnerable because then you have the self doubt of, oh, they don't think I'm good enough. But I've just noticed like that's the best approach.
And I think people love and appreciate that so much more because they're like, you know what? They don't know all the answers either. And the fact that you're like, I
Hmm.
don't, but I'm going to find the best solution for you and use my skill set. I think that people appreciate that honest vulnerability. And I think there's such a shift happening too with, you're right, like on Instagram, especially LinkedIn, like people are looking for like, I'm the expert, but I think people are no longer looking for like the expert. They're looking for a leader where I feel like
Yes.
experts are like, they're put on a pedestal and we're like leaders, it's like, let's rise together. Let me bring you along. Like, let's do this together. So I feel like, yeah, you've brought up a good point around that too.
And that's a great word to use, like leader instead of expert,
Yeah.
because like I want to be someone who can encourage like the people around me to be better at all times. And that's not only in professional, but my personal relationships.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like I definitely have growing pains already. And there are days where I'm so exhausted or I'll like go to bed at like 7. I'm like, who am I? I'm so tired.
You're like, but you're recognizing that you need to like spend that time for yourself too, because you are going to burn out essentially if you're not taking that time too.
Yes. So it's definitely been a transition to really focus on myself and then focus on others as well, and just be in that growth mindset. But I'm so glad I started now instead of 5 years down the road,
Yes.
because then I would have looked back and regret.
Absolutely. And that was like my own journey too. I left from corporate to start my own like wellness business back in 2018. And I just remember sitting at my cubicle thinking, like, I know what life's going to look like for the next 10
Hmm.
years. I know what it's going to be, but I'm like, I don't know what's going to be on the other side of this, but it's worth taking that chance. And I didn't want to look back in 10 years from now going, like, crap, I got to start now. Or like, why did I never start? So I think like it's taking that messy
Right.
action and figuring out as we go, right?
No, exactly. And I actually just ran into, I was flying to San Antonio the other day. I ran into one of my old directors, and he even encouraged me as well. He was like, you're only 27. You have all of this time in your life. He's
Yeah.
like, now is the perfect time to take a risk and to challenge yourself. And I was like, that is so kismet. I
Yes,
thought it was a sign. I was like, thank you, like that validation.
absolutely. And that's such a beautiful sign and being open to that too,
Hmm.
right? Because I know sometimes we can be like closed off or kind of like if we see somebody else that we just haven't seen in a while, you're kind of like, oh, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? So the fact that like they were encouraging you and then you're open to like receiving that too.
Oh, absolutely. I'll say hi to anyone. I
Yeah.
have no qualms. It does not matter.
That's amazing. So, for our listeners, kind of where does somebody like get started from like, you help them with like the analytics side of things, right? You had mentioned. So, like that can feel really daunting and overwhelming for people. So, what kind of does that look like with like helping them through some of that process?
So it really depends on how much background the client has with
Yeah.
financials and operations. So with a lot of my clients are more the creative mindset.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is just start in small chunks and really audit their business for them and walk them through what they really need to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to turn your passion into a scalable business, it can feel overwhelming and daunting because you see a lot of noise from social media or
Yeah.
what you learned in college. And a lot of it is just that, it's just noise. And so, what I really try to do is I focus on like tangible goals for them, what business definitions they actually need to be focusing on. and I'll provide like a one sheeter of like these are common business terms. Like you
Yeah.
don't need to necessarily use them every day, but I will be. So kind of know what they are.
Yeah.
And then just breaking down for them what their processes are and just getting them like very organized. And what I've noticed, a lot of like creative minded people, they're very visual.
Yes.
They have visual tendencies towards like color associations or like
Yeah.
different patterns. And so I'll just try to break it down like very simply. And sometimes the data analyst in me is like, no, I want to like have it all of this information. I'm like, no.
I know you're like, I want to give it all to them, but then like it's like you learning to having that like discernment to be like, that's not going to help them and that's not really going to like get them further in their business because they're looking at it and they have no idea what the heck they're looking at.
Right, right. And so what I've been trying to do is just have a breakdown that's very simple. And so to show them like where they are today, like where they could go. And we're using like actual data. We're using either their QuickBooks or their systems that they're using.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are surprised with where they actually are, like with their numbers, because since they're so caught up in like the grandiose of their idea, sometimes I
Yeah.
think people assume they're doing better than they are. And so then it's like having that conversation. But to kind of like wrap it all up with my process, it's just having multiple check ins and conversations with
Yeah.
people, showing them their actual numbers, and
Yeah.
then bringing in reports like as needed.
Yep.
So if they're like just starting out, they probably don't need like a 5 year investment plan or something like that,
Right.
or presenting to angel investors. So I meet them where they are and then just kind of do a little stretch projects as we go.
That's amazing. And I think that's so important because you're right. A lot of people, creatives and visionaries, they've got this like amazing goal of like where they're going to be in 5, 10 years, but really they think that goal is going to happen like next year because they've got this big, beautiful vision. So
Right.
it's probably, I've noticed for myself, and I'm sure for you, like it's a balancing act between like, I don't want to like put out the fire of this beautiful vision you have, but I also need to like bring you back in here for like the reality side of things too.
And it is emotional too. And
Yes.
I understand that. So like in my college background, I actually went to school for music and business. So I definitely get like that artist like emotion and like that passion. And I think that's how I can relate so well to other people of that
Yes.
mindset, because I feel the same way. Like I will spiral, I'll have a meltdown, I'll get emotional, but
Yeah.
then you have to plug into like that rational side of your brain. And that's really like what I'm trying to help people with is okay, like reel it back in. It'll be okay.
Yep.
These are your numbers. These are the facts. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, and then making decisions based on that because now that you've given them that information, they can be like, okay, crap, I need to maybe like cut back on this or make sure I'm selling more of this because this is like a better offer that seems be attracting people, right? So I think it's giving them that data to make those decisions too.
And it gives people options as
Yes.
well. I think data is a great tool. I don't think it should be something that you're scared of.
Yep.
A lot of my clients, they openly tell me that they're scared of math. And I'm like, you don't have to be scared of math. You just have to know how to properly retain and then use the information. And then I think
Yep.
that helps like reframe people a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's we build it up in our head sometimes and we don't know what we don't know. So I think that's why
Mhm.
important it's important to have like someone like yourself who does break it down and to steps that's more manageable and understanding for them too.
Absolutely. And I'll be your therapist too. I
Yeah.
mean,
I feel like that just naturally happens, right? Like you end up learning, and it goes back to like relationships because you've built these relationships with people that they feel it's a safe space. And because you know so much about like their business, they're one, feeling vulnerable in that way. And then two, they're open to like sharing more because you know about their business. So then it just kind of all coincides together too.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, too funny. So what is there like a certain like platform you like to use? Like I know from like the operation side, like some people are like, I love Asana, I love Trello, I love ClickUp. Like, do you have one or that you like love to go to, or you kind of like, I'll help you with either of them, or I'll help you with none of them?
It kind of it depends on like where my client is in that stage,
Yeah.
because it kind of goes back to like with the business definitions. People think that project management is just being organized, but there's so many different roles, different steps that you can use. So I will start out first using Excel. That's been like my bread and butter ever since like my corporate role is to use
Yep.
reports in there. Sometimes people like to use Google Sheets. I hate Google Sheets because of the accessibility, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'll stay on that hill.
Yeah.
um, but for project management sake, I've been tapping into using Asana.
Yep.
Um, I like just because you can move the tasks around in
Yep.
a very easy way, and it integrates well with Google and like Google
Yep.
Calendar.
Yep.
I'm actually working on drafting up a new project for a marketing launch for one of my clients right now. So we're testing out Asana,
Yeah.
but I don't want to overwhelm her with too many systems.
Fair.
So I'm showing her, okay, this is how you could do it in Excel with like a NAT chart, and this is how you could do it with a program. Which one is like more scalable for you?
For sure. And I think that's a really good point too of like you might use a system that you feel comfortable with, but like what makes the most sense for the client? And like that's always what I say to him, like, that's great. We can build out anything, but are you actually going to use it? Like that's the
Right,
key here. I
right.
need you to actually use it and implement it.
And two, are you going to stick to like the project once we've laid out all of the
Right.
tasks and all the deadlines? Because if not, then you're not ready to fully go into project management.
Right. That's a good point as well too. So what is maybe something like for our listeners, the transition from corporate to entrepreneurship that you found to be like unexpected?
I think the emotion behind it
Yeah.
is like has been a big thing. Like the imposter syndrome a little
Yep.
bit. And then also the security of being able to find clients, I would
Yep.
say was a real shock for me because I was
Yeah.
so used to, okay, like you go to work, I know that this company has like the retention of customer loyalty, all those things.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the positive note, I've noticed that like people are way more kind of like accepting of you and your talents. They're way more encouraging. And then also I feel like I have more freedom to work at things at my own pace
Yep.
because I'm not in like the formal format of a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found that even for myself too, like leaving corporate and going into entrepreneurship, it was like shifting your mind to no longer be in like
Hmm.
that 9 to 5 mindset, right? Because you're like going to do something. You're like, oh, I better check, like, does this work for this person? I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm that person. I get to make that decision. So
It's
that
just
could
me.
be, yeah. So that could definitely be like a big shift as well too around like the mindset. And then you talk about the emotion part. And I think that's really open and honest to share as well too. Because I think so many things are glorified on social media, and I
Mhm.
think the more we're talking about like it can be emotionally frustrating. There's also so many amazing things that come with it, but like you're right, you're going to bed at 7 because you're burnt out. Like you're exhausted that day. There's been time like I have 2 young children, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old. So there's been times where I'm like, I'm actually going to go take a nap for 20 minutes because or an hour because I'm like I need to like recharge my battery. So I think entrepreneurship gives us that flexibility to be able to do those things too.
Definitely. And I feel like it gives you the flexibility to have like the continued learning as well.
Yes.
Because often, like when I was wanting to learn and grow, like in my past corporate roles, like, oh, it wasn't in the budget. Oh, there's not a
Yep.
class for that now. And now, just from meeting people and talking to like other people, whether on podcasts or like if they give me recommendations for books, like I've found like way more that people are willing to share information versus in the corporate setting because
Yes.
often I feel like if you have a manager, for example, and they teach you their role, well, they're going to be like, oh, you're going to come for my job or you're going to pass me up.
Yes. I
And I
agree.
haven't noticed that at all. It's been very collaborative.
Yeah, which I think that's just speaking to like the culture and like the rise of like the entrepreneurship and the way that it's like we can do life and business differently. And you're right, there's so many times where I think it's trying to keep up, what's it saying, like keeping up with like the Joneses kind of thing when in like the corporate
Yes,
world because you're climbing that ladder and it's like you haven't made it until you've like got to that top of that ladder. So you're right, there's not as much encouragement or collaboration amongst colleagues because everyone's fighting for like that one position. Where in like entrepreneurship, I feel like you and I do similar things, but I'm like, I know that there's so much out there. And I also feel like it's amazing because it's like maybe that's not a good fit for me, but I know they'd be a good fit for you. And like we can have that
right.
type of referral base. And I just think such an amazing way to live our life and our business too.
And there's plenty of work for everyone. You know, there's
Absolutely.
you're not going to have just like 10 big consulting firms in the US and then everyone's going to go there because you have like various needs or like various expertise or like you might have more experience in one area than me, but that doesn't mean that, oh, I can't be a business consultant because Amy is one too, you know?
Exactly, and I think it's just going like we have different skill sets, and I don't know, I even found that like within my wellness business that I had started, like someone wanted like I used to like did reflexology and someone would be like, "Can I have I'm pregnant." I'd be like, "Actually, that's not my area of specialties. Like I'll pass that along." And like that felt again, we were thinking of the client's needs instead of always thinking of our own needs. And I feel like that's a shift that's happening in entrepreneurship as well too, is like what's the best interest of like the client and then we're making space for like more maybe aligned clients to come in that way too.
And like as you help others, like that will be like returned onto you
Yes.
as well. And like in corporate, I feel like there's a false sense of like almost like aggression or just like the requirement that you have to like beat out other people
Yep.
to reap the rewards. And it's just like so not true and it's exhausting.
Oh, it absolutely is. So I'm glad we've like moved past that area of our life, definitely.
Yes, exactly. And then I like look at my friends and I'm like, well, why don't you just make your own schedule? Or like, why don't you
Yeah.
just do it this way? They're like, oh, we can't. We have to go through the process. And I was like, oh.
I know. And it kind of goes back to like the pros and cons of things and like what are you willing to settle for in your life? So like even though you might have like some of those growing pains now of like not the clients or the social media or something like that, it's like we know that this is temporary and like you can continue to make those changes and invest in yourself to continue to like grow and scale too.
I think that's like the biggest point that you just made is like investing in yourself because
Yes.
no one else will do it for you. Even
Yes.
your friends, your family, like all your loved ones, like the only person that's gonna do the work is you. And
Yes.
that's the hardest part. And it's a big responsibility too,
Yeah.
um, to take the challenge to invest in yourself. But all of like the corporate money in the world, you're never gonna be able to gain the experience or even like the monetary um increase if
Yeah.
you didn't take the investment in yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you find there's any like misconceptions that people have when it comes to like understanding like their business data or analytics?
I think so, especially with accounting versus running your business.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes I think people perceive both of them as the same. um I try to tell people like you have to keep it separate of like, okay, this is where I want my business operations to go and like what my net income goals are versus what are my taxes, like what are like all my expenses listed out in more that
Yeah.
accounting format.
Yeah.
And then I think also another misconception is people think that they need to be in a different stage than they are.
Yeah.
And so, especially if you're just starting out and you're really passionate, you want to grow, like you're scared, you don't have maybe like the trust in other people. Um, but then you immediately want to be at the next step of scaling and scaling and scaling.
Right.
And so, one of my mentors actually, he told me, okay, you have to get people to reframe how they think about their business.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, like, okay, first stage, everything's on fire. Second stage, you've started to bring on processes and people. Then this third stage, it's totally okay if you just want to ride that out, like refill the coffers and just grow, like in a
Yes.
flat way.
Yes.
Like rest, take the time to like reset, and then you can start like the growth again. But this time, there's no fires because you like already managed that like in your growth stage, like going like this.
Oh, I love that. And that just like the way you're doing those steps too is like, and you're enjoying the journey as it
Mm-hmm.
goes, right? Because I think so often, like, like you're saying, it's okay to be flatlined for a bit because so many people are like, okay, I'm here. Now I need to jump to that next level. And we haven't even like soaked in and had gratitude and appreciated like that we've made it to like that third level. We've put out the fire, we've built the systems, and like it's okay to like be where you're at for that time being too.
Exactly. And then especially if you are a solo entrepreneur, you're not going
Yes.
to have the time to like reflect and even just rest and see what you want to do next. And I feel like you can't be creative with anything if you're tired or you're burned out or you're angry for some reason.
Absolutely. Or you're like always in that like chasing type of energy too, right?
Hmm.
And I don't know about like we feel that, clients feel that, like everyone kind of feels it when you're in that type of like energy too. So I think that's a good point.
And it's almost just like you're in a relationship with like yourself and your business too. So if
Yes.
you're constantly chasing after a guy or something on the dating or you're like obsessive, then he's not going to call you again, right? And so
Yeah.
how would you do the same thing with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to kind of talking about like you're creating a business that works for you. And so like
Hmm.
that's why you've left corporate is to create that business that like fits with your life and not always like the other way around too.
Exactly. And so like I feel like I'm still in the burning fires growth phase.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I have to remind myself, okay, like don't have the misconception that you have to be an expert or like
Yeah.
speaking on stages or, making 100K months or
Yeah.
something like that. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
okay to be where you are.
Absolutely. And knowing that like we're always learning and growing and evolving. And like that's okay too. Absolutely. And I think there's something too about having that growth mindset to kind of what
Hmm.
we talked about, having that leadership as opposed to being the expert. Because I feel like experts then like aren't open to like learning new skills or like evolving too.
And you never want to be the smartest person in the room either.
Agreed. Yes.
My parents always told me that. They're like, if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. I was like,
Yes.
okay.
I started hearing that in like entrepreneurship. So I'm like, that's very interesting that, and it's so true. Cause like you could, and I've even found too, maybe even for yourself, like even if you've learned something before, like I'm always so open to learning it because I'm like, you know what? I'm learning it in a different light now. I have different experience, different knowledge with that. And like, there's always something that we can be learning.
My mom, she was a teacher for like middle school age, and she would always tell us that it takes someone 13 times to actually like learn something. And so like even if you learned it once, like you said, you might not retain it or you might
Yeah.
not remember it the right way. And I think that's so important. And you have to take the time to like learn, okay, think about it. Now, can I go teach Amy about this subject and talk about it in a way that's simple and she could understand it?
Yes, and I think that's even true with like clients as well, because I don't know about
Hmm.
you, but what I find sometimes is like because clients they're in the fire and they're dropping all the balls, they want their business like fixed right away, but it's like I need time to like get a better understanding of your business to then implement properly the different systems and SOPs and organizations. So like as much as you want to put this fire out right now, we're going to just let it simmer for a bit so we can actually put the proper things in instead of putting something in and then oh crap, we've just created a second fire.
Right, exactly. And like I don't think everything has to be urgent either
Yes.
on the project list. And that's what I had to work through with one of my clients like last week on our one-on-one. She had everything listed as urgent and I was like, okay, well, I feasibly can't do all those things in like the next
Yeah.
40 hours. So
Yeah.
we have to like redistribute and delegate. And I think it goes back to like just building that trust that
Yeah.
someone else can go in and make decisions, and then I'll bring you in if necessary. But you really have to let go of those fires because at the end of the day, like you're there to like produce your product or
Yeah.
give your service out, and you have to rely on other people to be in the weeds or fight the fires.
Yes. And even I think you had talked about like what are their goals. So it helps going back to like what are your priorities? Because as much as like these 40 things are really urgent to you, that's wonderful. But like they're all not a priority. So like let's figure out what actually is gonna like move you forwards because there's so many things that like we think in our head that they're urgent, but it's actually like not really moving the business forward too.
Exactly. And I think what helps people is doing like time blocks of like,
Yes.
okay, like I'm gonna do this one thing and then see like where it gets me. And then if I don't finish it, then I'll readjust the rest of my day.
Yeah.
But I get like that too, where I think, okay, I have all these client requests coming in. I need to fulfill them like right away. So I make them
Yeah.
happy. And then I'm like, oh no, I can't do it like all in one day. But then I
Yeah.
like block it out. I'm like, oh, well, I just finished that in like 20 minutes and I thought it was going to take me forever. So it
Yes.
like reduces the stress and the anxiety.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, time blocking, then you're able to have like a better understanding of like how long does it actually take me to do something? Because we've
Right.
built it up in our head that like, oh, this is going to take me 2 days to do. And you're like, actually, it only took me 2 hours. So yeah, time blocking is amazing for that too.
And what I'm trying to do now with one of my clients, like, so she designs silk scarves, and I'm trying to do like a time study with her so we can
Yeah.
create a workflow. And she's like, I've never even figured out like how much it takes me to design a scarf. I'm like, great, we're gonna do it right now.
Absolutely. Because again, that's really important for our listeners to know too, because they might be charging something,
Mhm.
but you actually like to make that scarf, the material, the time, all of it, like they might only be making like $5 an hour when you break it down, kind of thing. And then that gives you that
Right.
opportunity to again look at that data and go, okay, am I willing to like sell this scarf only making $5 an hour? Or like what else can I do kind of thing?
No, exactly. And oftentimes people are surprised or shocked
Yes.
because they're like, oh, I'm not worth that much. And I'm like, oh, but the numbers say that you are. So
Yeah.
now like make the connection.
Let's tie it all together. Yeah,
Let's make it together.
absolutely. Well, and I used to have like a product-based business when I with my wellness business. I used to make like products and stuff like that. And then I had to make that decision too, because I actually started to drill down like how much it was costing me to make like these roller balls or bath salts and stuff like that. And then
Mhm.
when you factor in like it was during COVID, so then like shipping and everything, and I was like, I'm not really making a lot of money off of this, and it's a lot of time and energy, and I feel like I could be focusing like other areas too. So yeah, it's really important
No,
having,
definitely.
yeah, drilling into that. So, um, how would you kind of define success now versus like when you started in November?
Oh, that's a good question. I think success now is figuring out how I'm spending my time intentionally and having conversations that will help me grow and lead to like future revenue down the road or continued learning. I think success for me back when I started was just the number of people I could reach out to, the number of connections that I could make, and even just like the first couple dollars that were coming in from clients. But I've been able to take that and like reframe it into okay, like that those were all like really great wins.
Yeah.
But now like I'm more experienced. I have like a more robust network. And so
Yeah.
like I need to evolve like my definition appropriately. And I think success is definitely like the time spent and has it been spent well?
Yes, I love that because I think so often people look at success as a monetary value.
Mhm.
So the fact that you're talking about like the time you're putting in as well too, is that the best use
Like
of your time and energy as well?
sales or revenue, like that's great.
Yeah.
But like at what cost? So are
Yes.
you spending like 24 hours just to get like one sale? Or are you spending all this time like doing social media?
Yeah.
And it's okay to let go of those things that aren't serving you. I know it sounds like really cheesy, but like it's
Yeah.
okay. And I think for me, it's like also I want to have time to spend with my family or my
Yeah.
boyfriend or doing my activities as
Yeah.
well. And I just can't compromise on like some things that I want to do like outside of work.
Yeah.
And that's been like very difficult, like to kind of have those conversations with people too. Like, okay, like I might not be able to like go on as many like date nights or something or
Right.
go out to dinner all this time, but you are like building up like your resourcefulness by analyzing like, okay, like do I am I doing the right things with my time? Am I still like fostering those relationships?
Yes. Oh, I love that. Such an amazing point and perspective for our listeners as well too. So I just wanted to know as well, like, I feel like we've touched on a lot of it, but like, what are other ways you're kind of like leading yourself in your business? So I know we kind of talked offline about like not being on every platform because it can feel really daunting and overwhelming, and we feel the pressure to be on every platform.
Mhm.
But maybe what are some other ways that you're also kind of helping to lead yourself?
I am focusing a lot on like reading. So just as many like industry articles as I can so I can speak relevantly with my clients.
Yeah.
And then also I'm just really focusing on like again, like you said, like one social media platform.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out like what is working for me, and how I can best show up like for myself and for my listeners or clients or stuff like that. But I think just I'm trying to lead with intention is my goal.
Yes. Speak my language. I love that. So beautiful because I think again, like when you lead from that in a place of like purpose, like everything else tends to fall into place. Like you're still working at it, but like you're doing it
Mhm.
with like soul and you're not, there's not that forcing type of energy.
And less anxiety too.
Yes. Very good point. Yes.
Which I'm trying to like reduce my gray hairs. Okay, I have a couple, but
Oh gosh. Yeah. I get my hair dyed now. It's inevitable.
I
uh,
have like a little patch and I'm trying to like, okay, stay there.
just stay there. It's okay. And I think that's true. Like, again, sometimes business can be like glorified, but like you're sometimes gonna have more stressors that like aren't the same as like a 9 to 5 too. But then the reward is so much deeper and greater and so much more satisfying because you're like, I did that. I got to help somebody do that. Someone else now has like more time in their life or more energy or more finances because you gave them that data and you gave them the operations, you gave them the support that they knew they needed, but didn't know how deeply they needed it until working with you.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like you captured it like so well.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. So it's been so amazing chatting with you today, Mary. I'll be sure to include in the show notes, how people can connect with you. But is there any kind of like parting inspiration or words you want to leave for our listeners today?
I would just say, like, take the risk if you can and just start slow. Like, see if you can take on like one or two things that you're doing differently in your life today, whether that's like business or trying to learn. And again, like, don't be afraid to reach out to people. And I think you'll find that things will go like better to plan than you expect. And I would just encourage like everyone just like take a risk, or if you think about doing something, just do it.
I love that. It's like you don't know unless you try.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yes.
then if you fail, then it's okay. You can just start over.
Exactly. Or you can shift into something else and that's okay too.
Absolutely. I like saw this quote. I think this would be like my lasting quote for people
Yeah.
is you could be in a job for like 30 years and you think, okay, like I won't do anything else because I've invested 30 years of my life into this job. But then you could pivot and try something new, like going back to school. And then you could look back in the next 30 years and you're like 65 and ready to retire. And you're like, oh, wow, I have 30 years of experience in this like new job or role. But then if I had stopped, then I never would have had any of that.
Yes. I love that. And it goes back with our conversation of being that lifelong learner. And again, like it's okay to change and grow. So, yeah. Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that today.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me. I loved our conversation today.
Amazing. Thanks again for being here.
Of course.